Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our exclusive Global Leading Voices webinar campaign. We are delighted to have you join us here today. Please be informed that if you have any questions during the presentation, you may type them into the question box in your control panel. The presenter will answer your questions at the end of the presentation accordingly. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to our presenter, who will begin shortly.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. Thank you for being here. My name is Yetmir Yashare, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar, Building Trustworthy AI with ISO IEC 42001 and the NIST AI Framework. We're thrilled to dive into this very important topic and more delighted to be joined by our distinguished speaker, Mr. Hafiz Sheikh Ahmed. Before we get started, I'd like to inform the audience that the session will be recorded and will be posted on our website and YouTube channel along with the slides of the presentation. Furthermore, an attestation of webinar completion worth 1 CPD credit will be issued within 1 week to all attendees who participate at least 60% of this live session. Make sure to submit your questions using the Q&A feature in the questions box or the chat box, and we'll address as many as we can during the Q&A segment in the end. Now, without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to hand it over to our speaker, Hafiz.
Thank you very much, Jay. I'll start by asking a simple question to all the participants that we have. Did you know 66% of users today rely on AI outputs without verifying the accuracy of the information? According to Deloitte report in 2024, AI trust level dropped from 53% to 40%. And according to World Economic Forum report in 2025, 66% of the users who are using AI products are concerned about the legal, cyber, and reputational issues of that AI application. According to KPMG report in 2025, 54% of the people across the globe are wary about trusting AI systems. 72% accept AI use despite the concerns about safety and societal impact. 82% have heard about AI, but 49% are not too sure about the usage of AI applications. And 68% use AI applications, but out of those 68%, 41% don't realize that how AI is being integrated in those different products or applications that they are using. So the real question is that why the numbers, despite the facts that everybody today is talking about AI, production of AI, building AI, what is the reason that we are not able to bring that trust of those AI applications among the common users? I'm just going to put 3 different scenarios in front of you that when trust is absent, how different applications and how high-stake failures happen. In one of the healthcare facility, they were using an AI model that was designed to detect sepsis, but it missed over 2/3 of the actual cases in hospital settings. The product was working very fine in the testing phase and in the training phase, but when it was deployed in the real world environment, it failed badly due to its lack of robustness and explainability. In another application which was designed to do predictive policing, AI systems used in law enforcement disproportionately targeted minority communities. Bias training data led to discriminatory outcomes and undermining the civil liberties. And in a talent acquisition application, it favored male candidates over female ones due to biased historical data. Lack of oversight and explainability led due to systematic exclusion. Now, if you've seen all these 3 different real-time examples, one thing which is very common is you develop the product, you tested the product, you trained the product, but when it came in the real world, when it was deployed in the real environment, it failed badly. So what was that missing element? That missing element for me was the trustworthiness of that application. You bring the product in the market, but you were not able to get the trust of the people due to the lack of um, trustworthiness in those applications. And this is the topic, and this is the thing which I would like to discuss today. And I would like to put a scenario that though we have got different systems and we have got all the technology and infrastructure in place, what is that one element which is missing in today's AI applications that people are not ready to accept despite its benefits and despite having the productivity of those applications? My name is Hafiz. I'm a PECB certified titanium trainer. I'm very privileged to be among the top 15, 20 PECB trainers who were recognized globally as a titanium trainer. I'm an advisory board member, public speaker. I have been in the GRC space for the last 20 years, started my career back in 2005, working as a quality engineer, jumped into the ISO space, and since then I've been working on different ISO standards, on different frameworks across the globe, namely GDPR, NIST, SOC 2, and all the other compliance frameworks and regulations that we have. So my background purely is into governance, risk management, compliance, data privacy, and now, of course, with this AI, I'm also looking into different AI regulations and frameworks across the globe as well. In my current role, I also do a lot of external audits. I work with some of the largest global certification bodies across the globe to perform and conduct certification audits. I also do advisory and consulting services for different organizations. And some of my key achievements, as you can see, I'm not going to market myself, but I've been awarded with PECB certified trainer back in 2022. I was awarded CISO of the Year in 21 and 22 as well. And I also got awarded with BX Business Excellence Awards in 24, 25 here in Australia. Now, coming back to the point, the thing which I was trying to discuss and I'm trying to discuss with you over the next 30, 40 minutes is how we can get the trust back of the people on those AI applications. There have been multiple global landscape of AI regulations. I'm not going to teach you about these different AI regulations and frameworks and standards. That is not the agenda of this discussion. But I just want to highlight a couple of the standards, primarily ISO 42001 and NIST AI Risk Management Framework, that how we can rely and how we can combine and how we can integrate some of the features and some of the capabilities and some of the requirements of these standards along with different regulations to bring the trust in AI applications. So I'm going to propose an AI governance model. I've named it as GRAIT. It's a great model because for me, I personally believe that traditional GRC model is not working anymore. We have got governance, risk, and compliance frameworks. We have worked on that in the past. I'm sure most of the people in the audience still have some sort of GRC in their organization, but the traditional GRC model is not working when it comes to AI applications. So we have to bring that AI element along with the trust in our GRC models, and that's why I've named it as GRAIT. And the most important question that I have for everyone is that should we bring AI or should we build AI? Or do we have some sort of bridge between building an AI application and having the trust and bring that trust in those AI applications? So how can we have that synergy between these two different concepts? Because just building AI is not enough. And if you don't have those foundations, how can we bring the trust in those AI applications? So we need to see how we can align and how we can have that bridge between the two important concepts. Some housekeeping rules. It is not a technical session, so I'm not going to teach you what is AI. I'm sure all the audience here is pretty expert in understanding AI. So I'm not going to teach you what is AI, what is neural language, what is machine learning. This session is not designed to give you a deep dive into AI. It's not a sales pitch, or I have a bit of a slide about myself, but again, this is not a sales pitch. It's not a marketing gimmicks. This is purely part of PECB initiative to have global leading voices on different topics, and that is the purpose of this session as well. This is not a training on ISO 42001. Yes, if you're interested, of course, you can look into PECB ISO 42001 training programs, right from foundation to lead auditors and lead implementers. But again, I'm not going to market on behalf of PECB, but in case if you're interested, you can always look for those different training programs. My focus primarily would be on how AI frameworks we can use to support bring the trustworthy AI solutions in the industry. Why trust matters? Customer confidence. 70% of customers say trust influences their buying decisions. Now, this is a big number because if you want to target that particular industry, 70% of the consumers believe that trust has to be there. If I'm not depending, or if I'm not having any trust on any particular application, I'm not going to buy that. I'm not going to download that application. I'm sure it's the same case for everyone. Then, of course, there are regulatory pressures. We have different laws and regulations coming on AI, EU AI, which is one of the most comprehensive regulations on artificial intelligence. We have got GDPR back in 2018 when it was enforced, which talks about data privacy. Now, again, this is very, very important that we can't see these regulations in silos. We can't say that we have to comply with GDPR or we have to comply with the AI Act. You have to combine them. You have to integrate them. You can't isolate data privacy from artificial intelligence or vice versa. Then we have the NIST framework coming from the US. We have got APRA guidelines in Australia as well, which talks about the regulatory authority guidelines. And the most important thing, again, why trust is important, because AI misuse and data breaches can cause irreversible brand damage. In one of the scenarios in the recent past, we saw that Clearview was fined $20 million because they deleted all the information. They run as AI model, it deleted all the information, and they were fined $20 million because of that. So again, reputational risk is again a very, very important challenge that we need to address as part of having that trust on the AI applications. The global landscape, as is mentioned, there are multiple frameworks, laws, regulations, best practices that have been coming across, coming from different parts of the world. European Union, they have released more than 12 frameworks and standards and best practices. The most common one and the most recognized one is the EU AI Act, which talks about all the different pillars in terms of trustworthiness, in terms of data privacy, and most importantly, talks about the societal impact. This is very, very important. Then we see there are laws and regulations which are coming from China, US, as I said, we have got NIST from the US as well, then UK, Japan, Canada, Brazil. So all the different countries are now coming up with their own AI policies and guidelines and best practices as well. It's the same case if you go back in 2018 when GDPR was enforced. Now GDPR itself, or data privacy, is not a new concept. In Australia, for example, we had Australian Privacy Act since 1988, called Australia Privacy Act 1988. So the privacy itself was not a new concept. It's just that because the usage and the security was a prime concern that made the European Union or the European Parliament to come up with GDPR. And when it was enforced in 2018, later on, all the different countries across the globe, they came up with their own data privacy laws and regulations and frameworks. And now we see when EU released their Artificial Intelligence Act a couple of years ago, different countries are now coming up with their own laws and regulations on artificial intelligence. Australia, for example, has recently released their own guidelines and best practices and frameworks on artificial intelligence as well. And similarly, that's what we see coming from different countries, including Japan, China, India, Brazil, etc., etc. Now, I'm going to talk about two important frameworks on standards. The first one, of course, is the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. Again, I'm just going to give a very high level overview of what NIST AI Risk Management Framework is all about. What are the principles? Because I'm not going to focus on all the aspects of the NIST framework because that's not the topic of my discussion. But I just want to give you an insight at how these frameworks talk about the trustworthiness. So in terms of NIST AI Risk Management Framework, it was released in January 2023 by the US Department of Commerce. It's a non-regulatory approach. It is a risk-based methodology that focuses on identifying, assessing, and mitigating potential harms from AI systems. It provides actionable items and steps for implementing trustworthy AI practices. NIST framework, I'm sure most of you must have seen already. This one is based on 7 key principles. The first one, of course, talks about the safety of the society, no harm to users or society. It talks about how AI applications should perform. More importantly, it also touches about the security and resilience of those AI applications. The very key principle is the accountability. This is very, very important. When I speak to different people, and we have seen even in the past when we had different incidents, accountability is one of the prime principles in artificial intelligence. You can't just say that it's an autonomous car. There was an accident a few years ago in the US. It hit a pedestrian. The pedestrian was killed on the spot, but nobody was ready to take the accountability or responsibility of that. Autonomous car hits a pedestrian, nobody's ready to take the responsibility. So it is very, very important that yes, we are going to deploy AI application, but somebody has to take the responsibility. Accountability has to be established. So this is what NIST framework says, that you have to establish that accountability and clear ownership and oversight of your product or application. Of course, it talks about protecting your sensitive data, and it also explains like how we can minimize biases and discrimination if we are going to use AI applications. It is based on 4 core functions. It's more or less the same methodology or the framework that we see in ISO standards, which usually talk about plan, do, check, act. So it's more or less the same language. The thought process which NIST has adopted is that you should have the governance, first of all, where you are going to establish your leadership, the accountability of your applications. You need to have the right policies and procedures and organizational culture. Then you also need to do risk assessments, your system AI impact assessment. You need to identify the potential impact. Now, again, this is very, very important. When I speak to different companies and different startups and organizations, they always think risk from a technology standpoint. In AI, it is not just about technology. You also have to consider the human aspect. You have to consider the societal impact. You have to consider the impact of trustworthiness. So it's not just about the right technology or the lack of technology which could impact your product. You have to go extra step and you have to take the right steps to do your potential impact from a system AI impact assessment standpoint. You also need to have the stakeholder impact assessments. Then once you do your risk assessments, the framework says you have to mitigate those risks, do your monitoring, come up with the right treatment plans, and then you have to do the monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation in terms of measuring the performance of your products and making sure, again, performance measurement doesn't mean that you should have a KPIs around your incident management and your vulnerability management and stuff like that. In terms of AI, it is more than that. It is also about measuring that how your AI product or the application that you have trained, it's not impacting the users. It's not having a negative impact on the society. So you need to have those KPIs and those monitoring mechanisms in place as well. And this is what NIST AI risk management suggests us. The second one, the second most common framework or standard that is released back in 2023 is ISO 42001. Now, again, if you see, ladies and gentlemen, AI is not a new concept from an ISO perspective. We already have multiple guidelines, even before 42001, that talks about trustworthiness and governance and accountability around your artificial intelligence. What ISO did back in December 2023, they have come up with a proper standalone management system, which is named ISO 42001. So again, it's establishing the global benchmark for your AI governance, a comprehensive framework, a comprehensive standard, which basically allows you right from the planning phase to the retirement with auditable processes. Again, just like any other ISO standard, organizations can implement, and later on they can go for the certification as well. And it most importantly addresses governance processes rather than prescribing specific technical implementations. So again, it's a management system as a whole. It has got more or less the same structure as we see with any other ISO standard, right from clause number 4 to clause number 10. It talks about the governance, leadership, your operational management, having the roles and responsibilities, doing risk assessments, system AI impact assessments, and then implementing the controls based on the risks that you have identified. It is pretty much aligned in terms of the structure with ISO 27001. So in 27001, those of you who are familiar with ISO 27001, we have got 93 controls in Annex A. Here again, we have got around 50 controls in Annex A, and depending on the risks that you have, you can choose whatever the controls are applicable, and you can go for the implementation of those different controls. And since it's a standalone management system, organizations can go for certifications as well. The key principles of 42001, of course, it establishes accountability, which is very, very important. Again, having the right roles and responsibilities for AI impact throughout the organization. It establishes your transparency in terms of having AI decisions and implementation of explainability measures. It talks about the safety and robustness of your AI applications, and also doesn't really talk much about the security, although yes, security is one of the key feature of that. And one of the questions, when I remember when this came almost 2 years ago now, the idea was, can we have to have 27001 or 27701 as a standard in place as a prereq before we are going for 42001? Technically speaking or logically speaking, the answer is no. You can have 42001 even without having 27001 or 27701 standards in place. But technically speaking, when you go into the details of 42001, and when you guys decide that we have to implement 42001, security is one of the key aspects which is being discussed and would be implemented as part of it. So yes, from a certification standpoint, organizations can go for 42001. There is no such prereq that says that you have to have ISO 27001 or ISO 27701 certification. However, from an implementation standpoint, you need to have the right security control. So again, you have that sort of integration between 42001 AI management system and your security frameworks. But again, going back to our question and the point which I tried to raise at the start of my webinar was, with this NIST AI risk management framework, with this ISO 42001 standard, what is that one common thing that we need to have? Organizations can implement 42001, they can adopt the best practices of NIST framework, they can adopt and they can comply with your EU AI Act But what is that one common thing that we have to bring in our AI application? And that is basically the trustworthiness in your AI applications. In fact, it's a very funny thing where you can see the number 4. If you search in ISO 42001 with the keyword trustworthiness, it is mentioned in 4 different places in ISO 42001. However, when you see the details of the word trustworthiness, it talks about having the systems ethically designed, securely deployed, transparently operated, and continuously monitored. So trustworthiness itself is explained in these different frameworks and standards. And what is that? That you need to design your applications ethically, means no biases, no discriminations, securely deployed. That is where the concept of information security and the CIA aspects of confidentiality, integrity, and availability comes into picture. Transparently operated and then continuously monitored. So this is a unified definition you would find whether you are trying to comply with the AI Act, you want to adopt the best practices of NIST AI risk management framework, or you are trying to get certified against ISO 42001. This is one of the common things you will find in all these different frameworks and regulations. So this is a quick comparison, which I have tried to put in here. ISO 42001 focuses on establishing a certifiable AI governance system. In terms of trustworthiness, it has got ethical AI principles, which talks about fairness, accountability, and transparency. It has got a life cycle governance right from design to decommissioning of your applications. Of course, stakeholder engagement, just like any other ISO standard, where you have got the leadership commitment and policymakers involved into it, and then the continuous improvement. So again, these are the trustworthy pillars we have from ISO 42001. Then when it comes to your European Union AI Act, it focuses on risk-based regulation of AI systems. In terms of trustworthiness pillars, it focuses on, again, having that risk categorization right from unacceptable to minimal risk. And if you have got high risk AI requirements, it talks about human oversight, external audits, data quality, bias testing, etc., etc. And because it is a regulation just like GDPR, and I'm sure everybody knows in GDPR we have got hefty fines if you don't comply with the regulation. Here again, they have proposed to have 35 million pounds or 7% of global turnover for non-compliance. And then when it comes to your NIST AI risk management framework, again, it focuses on flexible and principle-based guidance. From a trustworthiness point of view, we have already seen it has got 4 main functions, right from your governance, where you have got the accountability and governance and stakeholder oversight, to your managing your risk, identifying your risk, and then measuring and monitoring the fairness, reliability, and explainability of your AI systems. So again, if you see, and this is what I was trying to bring earlier, all these 3 different common and the most recognized frameworks and regulations, they've got this trustworthiness in their frameworks and regulations. So a quick comparison, fairness as a principle is there in all the 3 frameworks. Transparency, it is embedded in the life cycle of ISO 42001. Accountability, again, all the 3 frameworks and standards talks about that. Security and privacy, as I said, it is integrated, not a prereq, but when you are going to adopt and when you are trying to achieve the trustworthiness, you have to have that secure deployment concept into it. And that is where your information security management system comes into it. It's not necessary that you have to have 27001. You can adopt any best practices when it comes to information security and cybersecurity. So Together, these frameworks define trustworthiness not just as a technical attribute, but as a governance outcome. It's about building systems that earn confidence through design, documentation, and demonstration. And this is demonstration is the most important part. ISO 42001 covers the design, development, implementation, monitoring side of it. Your NIST frameworks, as we just saw, also talks about design, governance, risk management, monitoring, and measurement. Your EU AI Act again talks about the human oversight, risk management, societal impact, etc. So the point here is you would have a lot of information, a lot of controls, a lot of requirements which focuses on the design and documentation. But with AI, it is very, very important that we have to take one extra step, and that is demonstration. And the question here is how we can have that trust, how we can demonstrate trust. Is it just by saying that, yes, I'm doing the right thing? Or is it something that people should acknowledge that, yes, you are doing the right thing? And that is where my understanding is that the traditional GRC systems at this stage are not giving us that result that how we can demonstrate trust on AI applications. So probably we need to refine, we need to define, we need to fine tune our existing GRC model to make it more GRAIT. And for me, GRAIT means governance, risk in AI, and having the trust element as well. So it's a conceptual framework that integrates traditional governance, risk, and compliance with the emerging imperatives of artificial intelligence oversight and digital trust. It's designed to address the unique challenges posed by AI systems, such as biases, explainability, data provenance, and ethical deployment. So as I said, if you see the traditional governance, risk, and compliance, they are not addressing the trust element. You can always argue that compliance means that we are getting the right trust. I'm ISO certified, yes, great. But does that mean that you are having the right controls? Yes, you are being audited by the auditors. I'm a lead assessor myself. I do hundreds of audits every year. But does that mean that my audit reports or the certifications that you are getting from different certification bodies means that your systems are 100% secure? Can you give that trust and assurance by just having a SOC 2 report, or do we need to change something? Can we still rely on the traditional governance, risk, and compliance model to adopt or to develop or to design AI applications, or we have to bring that trust in those applications as well? And that is where my proposal, or the way we look into it, is that we should have a GRAIT model, which is about governance, risk, compliance in AI, and having the trust element into that as well. So the key components of this GRAIT framework is having the right policies. You need to establish the governance. You have to establish the accountability, as we see coming from different frameworks and standards. Of course, you have to do the risk assessments, but you also need to ensure responsible development, deployment, and life cycle management of AI technologies. And again, the last and the most critical element is, yes, you have got the deployments, you have designed the applications, you have trained your AI models, but how can we bring that trust within the stakeholders? So building stakeholder confidence through transparency, fairness, and ethical use of AI. Now, again, it's always a point of discussion that these terms are very subjective. What do we mean by transparency? How can we bring the fairness? How can we have the ethical use of AI? Again, we can always debate on this one that these are very subjective terms. But this is what I'm trying to address in the next few slides, that how we can have that transparency and fairness, and how we can bring the ethical use of AI applications in our day-to-day activities. Why GRAIT matters? Because AI is not longer an option. It's embedded in our decision-making activities, automation, customer interactions. Also, because trust is fragile, misuse or poor governance of AI can erode public confidence and invite regulatory scrutiny. And because regulations are evolving, that is why we need to have a governance model that also talks about AI and trust in that. Now, this GRAIT as a framework is largely, um, you can say, adopted or um, it's more aligned with something which is already being there in the industry. A Gartner endorsed approach that supports GRAIT by enforcing fairness, reliability, and data protection in AI deployments. KPMG's Trusted AI framework also offers ethical design and governance strategies that mirror these GRAIT principles, and then open source ecosystems like Red Hat emphasize transparency and auditability, which are central to trust in AI governance. So this GRAIT is largely influenced by all these different frameworks and the best practices that we already have in the industry. Now, if we want to map this GRAIT framework with the three international standards that we have just seen, so you can see the governance pillar, it's being there in all the different frameworks and standards. So 42001, for example, clause number 4, clause number 5, clause number 6, it's all about governance and leadership and management commitment. Even in 27001, which is our information security management system standard, it talks about governance and organizational structure. Then in NIST, again, we have those governance functions in there. Risk management, the backbone of all these standards and frameworks. AI oversight, yes, it's a new thing in 42001. So of course, 42001 being an AI management system talks a lot about AI oversight and development lifecycle. And trust, of course, is then coming from transparency and your impact evaluations. But the real question here is, should we bring trustworthy AI applications, or do we need to bring trustworthiness in those AI applications? Is it just about design, development, deployment, or it's much more than that? And can we have that synergy? Can we have that bridge between these two critical concepts? You are building the application, you have got the right AI models, you are training those models, you are having the right information in those AI applications. But is it just enough, or do we have to take an extra step? And that is where my understanding is that we have to have a bridge of both. Building trustworthy is the foundation. You are going to design the systems. You are going to apply these different frameworks of 42001 and NIST frameworks. You might be adopting some guidelines from the EU AI Act. You might be getting compliant with some laws and regulations, but it is about the foundational side of it. It ensures governance, it ensures life cycle management, and continuous monitoring. But without having the right, without bringing the trustworthiness in AI, you can't have the right bringing for that. What is bringing the trustworthiness? It's all about communication. It's about credibility. It's about operationalization. It's about transparency, making that technical trust, the technical things into stakeholder confidence. It's demonstrating trustworthiness through your audits, through your compliance, through your certifications, through your disclosures. It is about embedding responsible AI practices into external perception, partnerships, regulations. So you might have built a right product, but if you are not communicating that thing, if you are not having the credibility of the usage of that application, these two things are not going to work. So without building trustworthy AI, there is no substance to stand on it. You can't bring something if you don't bring. But if you have built something, then you need to bring the trust in that. And how you can do that? Through your credibilities, through your communication and operationalization. And it's a very important thing that trust in AI is not declared. You can't just say I'm ISO 42001 certified, or we have adopted the best practices of NIST framework, or we are compliant with EU AI Act. Many times when I go for assessments, I can tell you, they say that we are compliant with Australian Privacy Act. Okay, that's good. We have 13 principles in Australian Privacy Act. Have you even looked into those 13 principles? The Privacy Act says you need to do privacy impact assessment. Have you done that privacy impact assessment? And the answer is no. Awesome. Then how you can claim that we are complying with Australian Privacy Act? In Australia, we have a Cybercrime Act. So you are putting in your compliance obligations register. I'm complying, or my organization is complying against Spam Act, Cybercrime Act. Awesome. Or we are complying with GDPR. Perfect. Have you done any assessment? Have you done even self-assessment? Forget about the external compliance assessment. Have you even looked into what are the 99 articles in GDPR? And the answer is no. Then how can you say that we are compliant with GDPR or different laws and regulations? So it's very, very important that you can't just say that we have got the right principles and we have got NIST frameworks in place. It's not just about declaring that, it's about demonstration. You need to demonstrate that what you are saying is actually reflected in your application or in your products. And that is where, on one side, you have got ISO 42001, your NIST frameworks, which gives you secure, transparent, and explainable design. This is the structure. But then you need to bring that into light through your operational transparency, credible assessments, and clear communication. And I always give this example that you can't say which is important. Yes, you have to bring a product. This is very important, because if you don't have a product, we can't talk about the trustworthiness. But if you have a product, then you need to bring trustworthiness in that. So you can't really say, and you can't isolate these two different concepts. You have to build, you have to bring. So bringing trustworthy AI is the non-negotiable base. Without it, it's just a marketing spin. Bringing trustworthy AI is what transforms internal governance into public trust. Think of it, you are going to build a secure bridge. That security will come through ISO and NIST, but then you need to invite people to come and walk on that bridge. But no bridge, no trust. So first you need to build the product, but then on top of that, you need to get the confidence of the people on your product. And how you can do that? Through demonstration, through your audits, through your assessments, through your compliance. And that is how you can have the right balance of building your product and bringing trustworthiness in your AI applications. I'm going to wrap it up. My closing remarks. AI market is projected to reach $740 billion by 2030 with a compound growth rate of 38%. Now, this is a big number. As adoption accelerates, trust becomes the foundation for successful implementation. Trustworthy AI is not just a compliance checkbox. It should not be just a compliance checkbox as we see with information security, which is very, very unfortunate that you just try to, just because you want to get an ISO certification, just want to have basic minimum controls in place, you get those sort of checkboxes. No, it's not about checkboxes. It should be a market differentiator. When you are going to bring the right product, bring it with integrity, we elevate brand equity, stakeholder assurance, and long-term resilience. A bridge without strong foundation collapses. Policies must start with technical trustworthiness and extend across real-world impact. Trust isn't built on good intentions. It's engineered through structured frameworks and continuous assurance. Trustworthiness must leave the lab. Very, very important point. Don't just sit in your office room or in your workplace and say that we have got the right product. You might have got the right product from a technology standpoint. You might have developed and designed the product, but unless you are not going to get that trust and assurance and confidence of the public or your users or your interested parties, you are not going to get the desired results. Bring it forward to the regulators, users, and partners who seek proof over promise. Call to action. My message to all the executives: trust is our differentiator. Let's embed it early and bring it forward visibly. And to all the regulators, let's co-create guardrails that turn principles into practice. So at the end, I would like to say it's very, very important that we need to adopt these best practices, whether it is an ISO standard or it's a NIST framework. This is your choice as a business, as an AI expert, as an AI guru. But most importantly, you need to demonstrate that as well. Do your rigorous assessments, involve your stakeholders. It's not a one person's job who is just developing the product and say we are going to launch the product. You need to involve all the stakeholders, right from your executives to your governance, leadership team, your regulators, your assessors, your auditors, your compliance experts, and more importantly, you need to have that confidence for your targeted audience. Thank you very much. Jay, over to you.
Thank you, Hafiz. I'd like just to add say a few words about our PCB Skills platform. PCB Skills is our on-demand learning platform created to help professionals like you stay ahead with flexible, bite-sized training capsules. Whether you're building expertise in cybersecurity, ISO standards, data privacy, or leadership, PCB Skills gives you access to 3,000 plus courses anytime and anywhere. The platform is designed for practical learning. Short, focused modules that fit into your busy schedule. You can start learning immediately, track your progress, earn CBD points and attestations, and even get certified. Now, if today's webinar inspired you, you can deepen your knowledge. I highly recommend exploring PCB Skills. It's perfect for individuals looking to upskill, stay compliant, and explore new domains in information security, risk management, and beyond. Now, if you're interested, please reach out to marketing.skills@pcb.com to book a meeting and explore the catalog. No extra fees after registration. It's just one subscription and full access. So I will be putting this on the chat box if you need more information. And I will continue with taking a few questions from the audience. Okay, we had quite a few questions asked from the audience. Now, obviously, we will not be able to take them all. However, all of the remaining unanswered questions will be posted on our next issue of the PCB magazine, so make sure to subscribe to that and look forward to it. Now, a question from the audience is, how can you inventory the risk of AI? If the depletion depends on the non-audible computer system?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I didn't get you.
Yeah. How can you inventory the risks of AI if the depletion depends on the non-auditable computer system?
Okay. See, one of the things that we need to consider when it comes to risk management, whether it is about AI or non-AI, your risk remains the same in your business, in your environment, in your organization. This is my viewpoint. We can have the right controls, we can mitigate the risk to an acceptable level, but when we say if we have closed out the risk, because this is a common terminology I always see when I meet with different stakeholders, with the risk experts. They say, we have got a risk, we have got the risk treatment plans, we implemented or mitigated those treatment plans, or we executed those risk treatment plans, and now the risk is closed. There's nothing called as risk closure. We always try to bring the risk to an acceptable level. Having the right controls, having, for example, DNP policies, or doing the system AI impact assessments and the treatments and everything doesn't mean that your organization is risk-free. There's nothing called as 100% risk-free organization. Microsoft has issues today, right? Recently in Australia, for example, we saw one of the largest data breaches, which was about Qantas, the airline that we have. Over 6 million customers' data was breached recently. They have the best controls, they have got the best technologies in the world, but since they got breached. So the point here I'm trying to make is, when you say that we have got the treatment plans, we have executed the treatment plans, and now if we are risk-free, or we are not going to have that risk, it's just that you have tried to minimize the impact. You're trying to minimize the likelihood of it. You can't say that it is not auditable. It is still auditable. Today, the values might have come down because you think that you have got the right controls, but you can't really say that the risk is closed or the risk is completed. You have just tried to bring it down to your acceptability levels. So from an audit perspective, it is always auditable. If I'm the assessor, I would be interested to see your treatment plans. Even if you say the value has come down to low or very minimal, as an assessor, I would still be interested to see like how you are going to maintain those controls in the future to make sure that the risk is not going to be back in your business. So to answer your question, it is still auditable. You can get the right controls by implementing and having the right treatment plans, but still you can't really say that I have closed out the risk or it is completed and I'm going to delete from my risk register or whatever the GRC system or AI system you are using to do your risk assessments.
Thank you, Hafiz. And there were plenty questions regarding the controls of 27002 and the 42001. Maybe you can just explain it once
27001 is
more.
my baby. I've been working on that since 2005. So hopefully I should be able to answer some of them, but please go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, a question says, ISO IC 27002-2022 contains 93 controls, similar to 42001 controls, or are there 50 plus different and specific? I know there are only 42 specific controls in total. Please clarify. And there was someone else that said, are there 50 controls in ISO 42001 or 36 as per the Annex A?
Yep. So yes, to answer your first part, yes, in the new version of ISO 27001, which was released in 22, we have 93 controls. I don't know how many have worked on the very first version of 27001, which came in 2005. Back then we had 133 controls. So we have come down from 133 to now 93 controls. Of course, it has been evolved over a period of time. So yes, 27001 has 93 controls, talks about the organizational controls, you have got people controls, physical security, and then all the technical stuff. Now in ISO 42001, again, as I said, you have got a similar Annex A structure where you have got around 45 controls. To be very honest, I haven't counted each and every control, but it is around between 36 to 45 or 49, I think. But they've got a similar structure, just like 27001, or if you want to call it 27002. So it talks about, again, some organizational policies to start with, having the interested parties, establishing the governance in that, and then the most important aspect of 42001 Annex is the data governance controls that you have. Those are the most critical controls. Now, of course, if your organization is not developing any AI product, just like in 27001, what we do, we exclude them. So we take again the same risk management approach, where if a control is not applicable because you don't have a risk, then you would say you're going to exclude that one. However, if you are into the development of AI application, if you are developing a product, then of course all those controls would be applicable. So that's how it is. Now, I think you also mentioned about the implementation. Yes, you can integrate both of them. You can take a similar approach, having one SOA, for example, for both of them. If you're going for an integrated management system, so you can have an SOA which talks about 27001 NXA controls, their applicability and non-applicability with justification, and then you can have for 42001 as well, with the same approach of saying which ones are applicable, why they're applicable, and if anything is not applicable, why those controls are not applicable. But again, I haven't counted the exact number, but as far as I know, it's between 36 to 49. My memory says it's 49, but maybe after the session, I can go and I can count each one of them. But yeah, it is around 40 to 49, I think. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And another question and a comment as well says, if I understand correctly, the concept of trustworthiness in AI is less about explaining the internal workings or outputs of the model, and more about establishing clear boundaries and controls over how the AI system is developed, trained, deployed, and used, and being able to demonstrate that these controls are effective. Now, given that many AI models, particularly deep learning models, function as opaque black boxes with growing complexity, and that current explainable AI, XAI techniques are still limited in their ability to offer reliable, meaningful insights, how can organizations ensure and demonstrate the trustworthiness of such systems to end users or customers, despite the inherent lack of transparency?
Absolutely. I think this is a very good question. And to the first part, yes, absolutely. And again, as we said, it has to come outside of your lab. So you need to bring that trustworthiness outside of your boardroom, outside of your conference room, outside of your workplace. It has to be bring it forward. You need to give that confidence to your users and partners and regulators and to your interested parties. So yes, your comment is absolutely right. It's not an internal thing. Internally, you're going to build the product. You're going to develop the product. You're going to design it. The demonstration is outside. The trustworthiness is outside of your physical boundaries or your office boundaries, basically. Now, how can we do that with the with those applications which have complexities? Absolutely, and I think as we evolve, just like if you follow the pattern we have seen in the last 10, 15 years with information security and cybersecurity and now organizational resilience, I think over a period of time, the laws and regulations will come in such a way where it would address those complex applications as well. At this stage, it's still in the growing phase. As we saw in the last couple of years, we only have got these, AI frameworks and standards in place. And over the last few couple of years, actually, the concept of AI has grown as well. So as we see that the products are going to evolve, your complexities are going to evolve in the AI space, I'm sure you will see there will be a lot more frameworks and standards and best practices and new benchmarks and baseline standards will come as well, which would address the complexities of those applications or those business models as well. But again, this is a starting point. I totally agree. Some of these complex applications probably we won't be able to demonstrate to that extent at this stage, but at least we can start off it as a starting point. We can think how we can use these frameworks and these standards and these best practices and these regulations to incorporate the trustworthiness. The idea is, as we saw and as I mentioned earlier in my intro, The trustworthiness has dropped from 54% to 40% in just 1 year. This is a Deloitte report. This is not my findings. So the idea is how we can bring that number at least to a stage where it starts going back to 40, 45, 50, 55%. We should not expect, if we expect as an AI person, or if you expect as a stakeholder or a shareholder in your business, I'm going to touch 90% straight away, it's not going to work. We have to take those baby steps basically. And those baby steps will start when you start incorporating these frameworks, regulations, do more rigorous assessments. Don't just say in your documents or in your policy documents that we are compliant. You need to demonstrate that as well. And over a period of time, I'm sure in the next couple of years, you will see there would be much more rigorous frameworks of standards and even regulations which will come from different countries, which will try to address the complexities of these AI models as well. But take baby steps rather than just saying that I'm going to do 90%, I'm going to hit 95%. If even on your product, if you get 60% trust of your people, that's an achievement for you. Because currently the bench baseline, as we saw in the Deloitte report, is 40%. So if you develop a product where you reach 60 or 65%, that's a major achievement for that AI application, I would say. Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much, Hafiz. Now, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today, but don't worry, all of the unanswered questions will be addressed and published in the next issue of the PCB magazine. Now, once again, allow me to remind you that this session has been recorded and it will be posted online on our website and YouTube channel along with the presentation slides. Additionally, to all of those that attended at least 60% of this session or more, you will be issued an attestation of webinar completion within a week from today. The attestation will be sent on the email that you have registered with. Now, thank you all for your time and engagement today, and a very special thank you to you, Hafiz, as well, for delivering this amazing and very insightful session. We hope to see you at our upcoming webinars again. Take care and see you soon.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.